There's a white powder on the shelf of almost every feed store in America, right down by the bags of soil. It costs about as much as a loaf of bread, and it will clear every aphid off your plants. It kills the ones you can see clinging under the leaf, and it kills the ones you can't. The young, born already swelling, that would have covered that leaf again by morning. Here's the strange part. It doesn't poison them. It's nothing a chemist cooked up in a jar. It kills them with nothing but its own shape. A powder so plain, it has no taste, no smell, and no patent, and that, as you'll see before we're done, is the whole reason almost nobody will tell you it works. Your great-grandmother kept a tin of it above her potting bench. No sprayer she had to glove up to mix. No garden service billing her every season. Just a tin, a soft brush, and 10 minutes after the dew burned off. She knew a thing most folks have since been talked out of knowing. My name is Elder Jacob. I am Amish, and I've grown food the old way my whole life. I'll be honest with you the way I always am, because honesty is the only thing that makes a video like this worth your minutes. I'll tell you exactly what this powder is, what it does, the 2 things it will not do, and precisely how to lay it on your plants this week. No padding. And one safety rule I need you to hear before you open the bag, because there's a wrong kind of this powder that can truly hurt you, and I won't let you buy it. Now, let me tell you what's really going on out there on your leaves. Once you see the plain sense of it, you'll never look at an aphid the same way again. When you find aphids on your roses or your tomatoes, your eye tells you a story. It says the problem is these bugs right here on this leaf. So you do the natural thing. You squish the line of them with your thumb, or you blast them off with the hose, and you feel you've won. 3 days later, the leaf is furred over again, thicker than before. After a week of this, you start to think aphids are something close to magic, that they can't be beaten. They're not magic. The aphids you killed were never the colony. They were yesterday's news. Here's what the old folks understood. In the warm months, an aphid doesn't need a mate. She doesn't lay eggs that sit and wait. She's born already carrying her young alive inside her clones of herself. The next 10, and the 10 after that, packed in like nesting dolls. One female puts out dozens in a week, and those are born pregnant too. So when you squish the ones you see, you've done nothing but tidy the leaf. You broke the hands. The birth rate behind them never paused. The thing you can see was never the problem. The thing you can't, that quiet, unstoppable rate of new young hatching out, that's the problem. So here's the whole turn of it. You don't beat aphids by killing the ones on the leaf today. You'll lose that fight every single morning for the rest of the summer. You win by changing the leaf itself, by turning the very surface they crawl across the surface their young hatch onto into something they can't survive walking on. You don't chase them. You make the ground beneath them deadly, and you let them come to it. That something is a soft white mineral called diatomaceous earth. It's not a chemical. It's stone, the fossilized shells of tiny water plants called diatoms, millions of years old, ground to a flour. The kind we use is food grade and uncalcined. Hold on to those 2 words. They're the difference between a thing that's safe in your kitchen garden and a thing that can hurt your lungs. We'll come right back to that. It's about 9 parts out of 10 pure silica, and it's been used on American farms for over 100 years. And that plainness, a mineral anyone can dig that no company on earth can own, is the reason, as you'll see, that so few people will ever tell you it works. Here's why it works in a way no spray ever can. A spray is a poison. It goes after the bug's nerves or its insides. And here's the trouble. Give a pest enough generations against the same poison, and a few survive, breed, and pass that toughness down until one day the spray does nothing at all. That's why the chemicals stop working, and you have to buy a new one. Diatomaceous earth doesn't work that way. It never will. Under a microscope, those fossil shells aren't smooth. They're jagged, sharp as broken glass and full of holes like a dry sponge. When a soft little aphid drags its body across that powder, 2 things happen at once. First, those edges score the waxy coat that holds the aphid's water in the way a cracked seal lets the moisture out of a jar. Then the powder, thirsty as dry chalk, wicks the body's own fluids straight out through the scratches. The aphid isn't poisoned, it dries out. It dies of thirst on a dry day. And here's what makes this method one the bugs can never beat. You can't evolve your way around being scratched and dried. A bug can't get used to glass. The university trials say it plain because the killing is mechanical, not chemical. The pest never builds resistance to it. The same powder works the 100th year as well as the first. That's the whole secret. Patience in a dry day are all it asks. Now, I owe you the honest measure of it. Before you try it on the wrong trouble and feel I steered you wrong. This is for soft-bodied, crawling pests, aphids first and best, but also spider mites, thrips, and the young of a dozen other troubles. The trials show aphids gone in a day, sometimes two. Mites about the same. It will not fix everything. It does little against flying pests while they're up in the air. It's not your cure for a plant disease, or a fungus, or a deer in the corn. And it has one true weakness I won't hide. It only works dry. More on that in a moment because that one fact is where most folks throw their whole effort away. Let me get you straight to the doing of it. One rule. Say it to yourself. Buy food grade, uncalcined, not the pool kind. Say it again, food grade, not pool grade. Here's why I won't let you skip it. The pool filter kind is the same mineral, but it's been baked past 1,000 degrees. That baking turns the safe powder into a sharp crystalline silica that's genuinely dangerous to breathe. It can scar a person's lungs for life. The food-grade kind keeps that crystal part under 1% and is safe for a garden and a chicken run. So, before anything, food-grade, uncalcined, get that wrong and nothing else matters. The list is short. A bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth, $4 to $10, and it'll outlast this summer and 3 more besides. A cheap N95 dust mask and a pair of glasses, because even the safe powder is a fine dust you'd rather not breathe a cloud of. A soft brush or a powder duster. That's the whole list. The first way is dry dusting. On a still, dry morning, after the dew has lifted, put on your mask. Dust a light, even film over the leaves where the aphids gather and mine the undersides, because that's where they hide and breed. A thin film, like the first frost on a window, caked on does no better than a whisper of it. Then dust a ring around the base of the stem, a little wall the crawlers have to cross. The second way is the wet slurry for tall plants and windy days. Dusting blows around and won't stick to a vertical leaf. So instead, stir about 2 ounces of powder into a quart of water, a couple heaping tablespoons to the quart, and spray that milk over the leaves, tops and bottoms. Now here's a thing the bag doesn't tell you, and it's the very place folks quit. While that slurry is wet, it does nothing. You'll spray it on, watch the aphids sit there unbothered, and swear it failed. Don't. The water is only the wagon. As it dries, it leaves behind a fine, even, invisible dust glued right onto the leaf, and that's the killing floor. The work only begins once it's dry. Spray in the morning and let the day do the rest. And here's the hardest part, the part where most folks fail, then call the method useless. It only works dry. So you have to respect the weather. If it rains, if you water from overhead, if a heavy dew settles, the powder clumps and goes to sleep. A clumped powder has no sharp edges and no thirst left. It's doing nothing. This isn't the method failing. This is the method waiting. You wait for the leaf to dry, and you lay a fresh light dusting down. A dry week is your friend. After a rain, dust again. That patience, a dry morning and a second dusting after the weather, is the whole price of the thing. And it's the cheapest price you'll ever pay for a clean plant. So here's what you'll see. By the next morning, the heavy clusters are already thinning. By the second day, a furred-over leaf is down to a few slow stragglers. By the third, the new young that hatched onto that dusted leaf are drying up as fast as they arrive because they were born onto the killing floor, and there's no fresh skin left to refill the colony. And then the leaf is clean. Now, let me lay it out plain, the good and the bad both, the way I'd want it laid out for me. What's good is a good deal. It's cheap past arguing. It kills the soft pests dead, and the bugs can never grow tough against it the way they do against sprays. It's a mineral, not a poison cooked in a lab. And there's a kindness most folks never hear as the plant takes a little of that silica up through its roots. It stiffens its own cell walls with it, the way a fellow eating well grows stronger, making the leaf itself tougher for a piercing pest to feed on. It does a second quiet job while it does the first. And what's not good, told just as straight. It's fussy about being dry, I've said so. It's a dust, and even the safe kind you don't want to stand and breathe, so wear the mask. And here's the one I most want you to hear. This powder doesn't know a good bug from a bad one. It'll dry out a ladybug or a lacewing larva just as surely as an aphid, and those are the very helpers eating your aphids for free. It's hard on honeybees besides. So you don't broadcast it like snow. Never dust an open flower or a blossom where the bees work. Dust in the early morning or the late evening when the bees are home. Aim it at the aphids' hiding places, the undersides, the stem, and leave the open blooms and the top of the canopy alone. Used with that care, it spares your helpers and takes only your trouble. Now sit with one thing for a moment, because to my mind it's the heart of the whole matter. A $4 bag of fossil dust does this work clean, lasting, and impossible for the bug to outsmart. A garden or pest service will charge a household, on the national average, near $600 a year every year. For the recurring chemical sort, a study out of Cornell put the conventional way at around $800 an acre against $20 for the old integrated method. $20 against $800. So how can it be that the cheap thing on the bottom shelf is the better thing, and almost nobody tells you so? Here's the plainest answer, and it's not a tale of men in a room. It's the law itself. The moment a company prints kills aphids on a bag of this mineral, the law calls it a pesticide. Now that bag must go through a long, costly federal registration and then a separate paid registration in every single state before it can be sold with those words on it. A chemical company will gladly pay that because they hold a patent. They own their molecule, so they can charge a high price and earn the cost back. But nobody can patent a mineral you dig out of the ground. If one company spent the fortune to register diatomaceous earth as a bug killer, the fellow down the road would sell the same dust from a different pit and undercut them the next day. So nobody does. You can see the result for yourself on the shelf. Bags of cheap food-grade powder that, by law, can't say one word about the bugs they kill, sitting right beside pricey registered sprays that can. The powder was never banned, never taken off the shelf. It simply was never allowed to tell you what it does, and so, year by year, folks quietly stopped reaching for it. I don't call that a conspiracy. A conspiracy needs men agreeing to deceive you. This is stranger, and in a way worse. It's a system nobody had to arrange one that simply earns nothing by teaching you that a $4 bag of dust does what a $600 service does. And profit, not truth, is mostly what gets remembered. So here's what I'd have you do this week, while it's fresh. Walk in and buy the bag and check the label for those two words. Food grade, uncalcined. Wait for a dry, still morning. Lay a light dusting on the undersides of your worst leaves. Mind the bees. Then do the patient thing and let it work 2 days before you judge it. And before you go, if a plain mineral the chemical companies would rather you never heard of is the kind of thing you want more of, do the one thing that keeps this knowledge alive. Subscribe right now this minute before you click away and the algorithm buries us. This is how the old ways get passed down again. Not by a service that bills you every spring, but by folks like you choosing to keep them. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll never be at the mercy of a man in a white truck again. I'm putting out the plain, honest, money-saving methods the big companies have no reason to teach you, but I can't reach you with the next one unless you subscribe today, so do it now. Then come back to the comments and tell me how your leaves looked by the third morning, and tell me what you're growing this season and which pest is troubling it worst. I read every single one.